Each day arrives unannounced, a silent offering placed at your feet. You did not earn it. You did not purchase it. It was given. The question is what you will do with it. The Stoics remind us that life is a series of moments. Each moment is an opportunity to live with intention. Each hour, a canvas on which your character is painted. You are not guaranteed tomorrow. You are not even guaranteed tonight. What you have is now. The Stoic philosophers believed that each day is both a test and a training ground. A test of your patience, your clarity, your self-discipline, and your values. A training ground to shape your mind, your choices, and your sense of virtue. You will face frustrations, distractions, and discomfort. These are not interruptions. They are the material with which you build strength. The Stoics did not seek a life of ease. They sought a life of integrity. Every moment was an opportunity to live by their principles. The same is true for you. This video explores how to meet each day with courage and clarity. It is not about motivation. It is about understanding your responsibility. It is about living fully within the time you are given. If you have been waiting to start, waiting to change, waiting to act, then this is your reminder. The time is now. Let us begin. Chapter 1. The Nature of Time and the Illusion of Later. One of the central ideas in Stoic thought is the awareness of time's passing. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations that we must concentrate every minute like a Roman, like a man, on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness. He was reminding himself that time is limited and that each passing minute deserves full attention. There is a common illusion that life will grant us more time later. Many individuals delay action, assuming that the right conditions will eventually arrive. They believe they will be more prepared, more motivated, or less distracted tomorrow. This belief creates false comfort. It encourages inaction and postpones meaningful effort. The Stoics challenged this assumption directly. Seneca warned that life feels long to those who use it well, but it feels short to those who allow it to slip away. Time is not something you control. Each hour spent in hesitation is an hour that cannot be retrieved. Each delay adds weight to future regrets. The illusion of later weakens discipline by shifting urgency away from the present. It creates an internal narrative that makes deferral feel acceptable. This shift removes the pressure that normally drives immediate action. Without that pressure, the will to act decreases. Personal standards begin to loosen, goals lose their definition, choices become reactive rather than deliberate. When individuals believe that there is always time left, they begin to operate as though action can wait indefinitely. This belief lowers the value of the current moment and trains the mind to treat opportunity casually. This mindset encourages avoidance and hesitation. It causes momentum to stall and forward progress to scatter. Effort becomes inconsistent. Minor setbacks feel like valid reasons to stop. Without the habit of addressing priorities directly, self-discipline becomes harder to access. The individual starts to drift between passive habits and unstructured routines. There is no strong center of gravity to keep decisions focused. When this continues, clarity dissolves and personal direction weakens. Instead of building a strong framework for decision-making, the person becomes dependent on circumstances to prompt them into action. When you begin to think of today as potentially final, your attention sharpens. Your sense of time becomes more accurate. You stop defaulting to delay and begin filtering actions through urgency. Priorities become easier to define. You cut out what is irrelevant and narrow your focus to what holds weight. The hours ahead are no longer background. They are your only available space to act. This mindset introduces discipline as a default rather than an occasional burst. The scarcity of time becomes a reason to act, not a source of anxiety. Stoicism encourages the habit of staying rooted in the immediate present. This approach strengthens focus and builds reliability. Attention is directed toward what is in front of you, with no effort wasted on projecting far into the future. The act of living fully in the present is defined by complete engagement. You bring your full attention to each task, each word, each movement. If something must be handled, it is handled. If something must be addressed, it is addressed with the available resources. Stoic thought centers on this kind of deliberate immediacy. Life exists only in the moment that is happening now. Every other time is theoretical. This mindset is strengthened by regular practice. It begins with deliberate structuring of your environment and daily schedule. Make your first act of each day a conscious identification of one meaningful objective. Anchor your attention around this priority and treat it as non-negotiable. Keep your commitments specific and measurable. Avoid vague aspirations. Target direct action. Remove distractions that pull your focus into non-essential loops. This might involve limiting exposure to digital input, unnecessary social media, or repetitive entertainment. Use a time journal or task log to document what you choose to do each hour and why. Daily reflection reinforces the habit of awareness. In the evening, review how your time was used. Examine whether your actions reflected your values. Ask whether you protected your priorities from interference. Notice if your decisions were shaped by purpose or convenience. These questions uncover the structure of your time. They clarify patterns of delay and patterns of commitment. This process builds accountability between your intentions and your actions. When each day is treated as complete in itself, your behavior becomes more decisive. You stop negotiating with your goals. You commit to what matters and release what does not. This way of living does not rely on external motivation. It is built from deliberate clarity. When you treat your day as a one-time offering, you begin to act as someone who cannot afford to waste it. You move with direction. You speak with care. You act from values rather than emotion. This orientation reshapes your habits. Delay becomes harder to justify. Inconsistency becomes easier to identify. The standard by which you live begins to rise, not by force, but by structure. Your time gains weight, and in that weight, you find the discipline to act. Chapter 2. Every test builds the foundation of strength. To the Stoics, tests are not interruptions to be feared or avoided. They are events that expose the current condition of your character. Setbacks, frustrations, and daily frictions serve as tools for measurement. These are not random hardships sent to diminish you. They are mirrors reflecting how prepared or unprepared you are to act with discipline, clarity, and strength. A difficult moment does not weaken you. It reveals your response to difficulty. That response shows whether your values are active or neglected. Epictetus stated that we should train ourselves to desire events to unfold as they do, rather than according to our preferences. This is not a passive view, it is a conscious strategy. When you stop resisting the structure of reality, you gain control of your internal response. You begin to see that resistance drains your energy. A delayed outcome becomes a controlled lesson in patience. An insult becomes a point of focus for tempering anger. A long task becomes a workout for developing concentration. If you treat each difficulty as functional, then no moment is wasted. Stoic training involved deliberate confrontation with discomfort. The point was not to seek suffering, but to prepare the mind. They practiced walking without shoes, fasting for long periods, or sleeping without comfort. These exercises were reminders that hardship does not destroy you. They taught the mind to remain calm while the body experienced stress. Such routines built tolerance, self-command, and emotional balance. These experiences removed the belief that comfort was required to act with strength or to think with clarity. When you encounter difficulty, the automatic reaction may be frustration, blame, or withdrawal. These reactions arise from the desire to control conditions that are outside your influence. The Stoic method begins with a pause. This pause is not about ignoring the challenge or pretending it does not matter. It is about creating enough space between stimulus and response to recognize what is within your power. You are asked to identify what the situation requires from your character, not what it threatens to take from your comfort. Examine the event closely. Ask whether it pushes you away from your values or gives you the opportunity to live them more clearly. This evaluation must be done without exaggeration or avoidance. If the moment calls for patience, then responding with irritation breaks alignment. If it requires honesty, then silence or distortion becomes a breach of your own standard. These choices are not measured by how they appear to others, but by how they relate to the virtues you claim to follow. This is the center of Stoic practice, matching behavior to principle under pressure. You may not choose the timing or shape of the events you encounter. You may not control the behavior of others, the pace of results, or the arrival of outcomes. What you can control is your direction. You can control whether you act in accordance with reason or emotion. You can choose to bring calm where there is tension. You can hold your discipline when ease would be simpler. The Stoic framework gives you a structure that stays intact regardless of external volatility. It does not guarantee comfort, but it gives you direction. Develop the habit of translating difficulty into cues for action. This begins with simple questions. Ask, what does this challenge demand from me ethically? Is this an opportunity to strengthen endurance, to control my tone, to practice non-reactivity, or to accept delay without bitterness? Name the virtue. Then bring your response into alignment with it. Do not act without clarity. Do not respond until you know what you are responding to. These are deliberate actions, not reflexes. Use daily review as reinforcement. At the end of each day, write down the most difficult moments you faced. Describe them in concrete terms. Then document how you responded. Were you patient or rushed? Were you truthful or evasive? Were you disciplined or distracted? These patterns reveal where your strengths are active and where your standards slip under pressure. Track your development with consistency. The goal is not to judge yourself harshly, but to gain clear feedback and to use that feedback to make adjustments. This ongoing practice builds internal structure. You begin to expect friction and meet it with preparation instead of alarm. You treat each difficult event as a live test of your principles. Instead of interpreting hardship as unfair, you use it as structured training. Your posture shifts. You no longer view daily setbacks as personal attacks or unfair intrusions. You see them as part of the path. Each challenge is data. Each resistance is training. Each inconvenience is material for building your core. Your response is your responsibility. A Stoic does not eliminate difficulty. Difficulty is expected as part of the human experience. It is embedded in daily routines, unexpected interruptions, and long-term responsibilities. A Stoic recognizes that challenges are not interruptions, but natural conditions. Ideal circumstances are not required for action. External ease is not a condition for internal order. The environment may be unstable, but conduct can remain consistent. A Stoic meets the day exactly as it is, without needing to reshape it to fit preferences. He brings structure to whatever condition he enters. That structure is built on principles, self-restraint, rational judgment, patience, and responsibility. He does not delay action until circumstances align. He responds immediately with what is available. Even when conditions are noisy, uncertain, or discouraging, he stays engaged with what needs to be done. His focus is anchored in clarity, not in preference. Each response is measured. Each action is guided by principle rather than impulse. When emotions rise, the Stoic does not suppress them through force. He redirects attention toward what can be controlled. This practice requires the ability to separate judgment from reaction. He considers what virtue applies to the moment and holds himself accountable to that standard. Discipline grows from repeated alignment between what is chosen and what is done. This alignment is the link between intention and behavior. As this connection strengthens, durability begins to form. The mind stops seeking ease. It starts looking for where it can apply effort with stability. Resilience becomes natural. Clarity remains intact even when conditions deteriorate. When others become scattered under stress, the Stoic maintains composure. When people respond to disorder with haste, panic, or aggression, the Stoic brings a calm and organized posture. His behavior does not depend on the tone of the room. It is governed by a private standard. This foundation does not eliminate adversity. It gives structure to how adversity is met. A Stoic moves through challenge without changing course every time pressure increases. This makes him steady. It builds a reliable pattern of action that holds through tension, setbacks, or confusion. The goal is to continue walking with integrity, even when the path narrows. The more this is practiced, the more reflexive it becomes. Virtue stops being an ideal. It becomes a functional way of operating. When others fall out of rhythm under pressure, the Stoic remains anchored in the discipline he has trained. That discipline is not built on outward success or performance metrics. It is the result of choices made consistently when no one else is watching. These are decisions formed in solitude, reinforced by trials, and shaped through the repetition of action under stress. The Stoic does not rely on inspiration or convenience to guide him. He relies on structure. His discipline is strengthened by the calm observation of his own conduct and his ongoing effort to refine it. When clarity disappears in the minds of others, the Stoic finds orientation in his foundational values. He holds firm to reason when emotion tries to distort judgment. He remains committed to patience when others react. His understanding of direction comes not from impulse, but from clear precepts that he reviews, reflects upon, and applies without waiting for ideal conditions. When comfort is removed, he does not seek escape. He adapts, adjusts, and returns to his purpose. He separates discomfort from disorder and chooses to maintain order within. When distractions rise, he identifies them, acknowledges their pull, and returns to his priorities. He does not pretend that distractions have no power. Instead, he recognizes their influence and then shifts his focus back to what matters. This requires presence of mind and a clear commitment to personal standards. Distractions often come disguised as obligations or comforts, but the Stoic has trained himself to sort through them quickly. He sees which are relevant and which are attempts to pull his attention away from principle-based action. His energy is not consumed by resisting every external pressure. He does not argue with noise. He does not give his time to what does not support the task in front of him. He places his attention deliberately. This makes him efficient. His focus remains directed at what is useful, what is necessary, and what contributes to the larger purpose he has defined for himself. Even when interruptions are frequent or energy is low, his focus returns to execution. He does the next correct thing. He stays active within the boundaries of discipline, not distraction. His duty is not to finish everything quickly, but to move forward steadily. He handles what must be handled and lets go of what is outside his scope. The Stoic recenters not through rigid force, but through trained awareness. He notices the drift. he corrects it without panic. This internal redirection becomes a reliable mechanism that allows him to re-engage without drama or delay. He does not wait for the mood to return. He moves into action because it is the right thing to do. This is the strength being trained, a stability that does not vanish under pressure. It is a practiced orientation toward action. It is a commitment to order amid chaos. It is the capacity to meet shifting conditions with a steady process. His mindset stays intact while circumstances move. His attention is anchored in clarity, not in reaction. His character does not fracture in silence. It holds firm because it has been built deliberately, piece by piece, with habits that match his principles. Chapter 3. Memento Mori, Remembering Death to Value Life. Memento mori is the Latin phrase meaning, remember you must die. It was a meditation tool used by the Stoics to sharpen their appreciation of life. Death was not something to fear. It was something to keep in view. It provided clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." These words are not bleak. They are meant to awaken you. They serve as a direct reminder that the future is uncertain and that each decision, thought, and interaction must carry weight. If death is always a possibility, then delay is always a mistake. If your days are numbered, then each one matters. This reflection removes the illusion that there is always time to correct, fix, or revisit what you ignore today. Modern life encourages distraction from mortality. There is a constant stream of noise that keeps attention scattered. Entertainment, consumerism, and constant connectivity create the sense that life can be paused and resumed without consequence. These distractions give the impression that time is flexible. Days begin to feel interchangeable. Individuals lose awareness of what is passing. Routines become filled with obligations that are not consciously chosen. Convenience replaces purpose. This kind of living creates a false sense of continuity, where each day seems to blend into the next without distinction or urgency. Death is not theoretical, it is real, and it is coming for everyone. No individual escapes it. Bodies age, energy fades, and moments pass whether you are paying attention or not. The Stoics reminded themselves of this truth regularly. They understood that the certainty of death gives weight to every action and decision. It is not an abstract event that happens in the distance. It is a fact that can arrive at any time. Reflection on death is not a passive awareness. It is an active sharpening of your relationship to time. The Stoics suggest that remembering this is not morbid. It is motivating. This mindset recenters your priorities. It breaks the assumption that you can always return later to what you have postponed. When you remember that your time is limited, you begin to examine what truly matters. You become less willing to fill your hours with distractions. You stop indulging in arguments that solve nothing. You notice when your words carry no meaning. You reduce time spent on roles that do not reflect your values. You focus on becoming clear, useful, and honest in your conduct. You do not know how many mornings remain. You do not know how many chances you will have to correct your path. If you avoid this fact, you will continue to make decisions as if there is no limit. But when you bring it into focus, your behavior adjusts. You begin to ask better questions. You examine whether your days reflect the kind of life you say you want to live. You take responsibility for what you repeat. You remove dependence on external outcomes and start building integrity from your use of time. Living with death in mind adjusts how you speak, behave, and direct your energy. You pay attention to the tone you use with others. You limit careless speech. You avoid wasting energy on gossip, complaints, and drama. You take initiative where you used to wait. You reach out to people before regret makes it necessary. You clean up unfinished work. You simplify your life to include only what matters. You carry yourself as if your actions today contribute to the final shape of your life. That awareness increases discipline and limits excuse-making. You stop investing effort in arguments that lead nowhere. You stop delaying important conversations that could shape relationships. You stop entertaining actions that violate your values. You stop assuming you will always have time to come back and fix what you neglected. You begin to notice how fragile life actually is. You realize that every morning is a limited resource. Every hour is a disappearing opportunity. If you do not act with clarity now, you risk leaving your life incomplete, filled with decisions shaped by convenience instead of conscience. When you live with death in mind, your actions gain focus. You simplify your to-do list. You place energy where it creates value. You stop comparing yourself to others. You gain control over how you interpret stress. You stop wasting time on petty conflicts. You remove yourself from cycles of resentment, comparison, and envy. You pay attention to how you treat others. You take care of your responsibilities instead of avoiding them. You let go of the fantasy that you can drift aimlessly through your days. You see each day as a serious platform on which your character is tested and revealed. You act with consistency because the opportunity to act may not return. Apply this reflection without fear. Use it as a tool to sharpen your mind. Begin your mornings with a moment of silence in which you remember that the day is a gift. You did not earn it. You do not control how many more you will receive. Let this awareness increase your attentiveness. Let it shape your first actions of the day. Begin with gratitude, then follow it with discipline. Review what must be done. Focus on the essentials. Avoid the trap of waiting for the perfect time. You are already within the time that matters. End your evenings with the question, if this had been my last day, did I live it with clarity? This question draws your focus to what you allowed, avoided, delayed, and completed. It gives structure to your conscience. It holds you accountable to your stated values. It reminds you that reflection is not about guilt. It is about sharpening your approach. This practice removes the vagueness from your daily experience. It brings form to your intentions. This habit does not create anxiety, it creates depth. It makes your days harder to waste. It reminds you that each moment has weight. Each action reflects your philosophy. Each choice contributes to your legacy. Chapter 4. Routine is sacred discipline, not repetition. A Stoic life is marked by consistent practice. It is shaped by daily actions that align with guiding principles. Repetition alone does not build virtue. It is the mindful execution of these repetitions that matters. The foundation of Stoic living is built in the ordinary hours, those moments where decision meets discipline. Daily habits form the structure in which virtue develops. Each repeated act reinforces a pattern of behavior. These patterns accumulate and define your character. Discipline is not about denying yourself for the sake of control. It is about establishing harmony between intention and action. When your behaviors reflect your core values, internal conflict lessens. You do not need constant reminders or external motivation. You act with steadiness because your choices are built on clarity. Routine should not be confused with mechanical repetition. Repetition without purpose leads to stagnation. Routine, in the Stoic sense, is sacred because it is guided by reason. It is not a system of automation. It is a system of awareness. Routine creates order within the day and limits the influence of randomness. A stable routine allows for consistency in decision-making. It preserves mental energy by reducing the need to constantly reorient. Seneca wrote that a wise person lives each day as a complete life. He meant that nothing is wasted. Each day is treated as a standalone measure of your philosophy and practice. It is not preparation for some future event. It is the arena in which your discipline is expressed. To live like this, you must design your time deliberately. Begin each morning with a ritual that centers your attention. This may include writing, quiet reflection, reading philosophy, or preparing a list of actions with purpose. The goal is to begin the day under your own direction, not under the pressure of distractions or obligations that arrive from outside. Limit input that clouds your judgment: social media, news, emails. Delay all of it until you have set your tone. A clear start leads to a clearer course. Select a few essential tasks and pursue them with full attention. Avoid unnecessary multitasking. Treat your time as if it were currency that must be spent wisely. In the evening, make a habit of examining your conduct. This daily review is not meant to shame you or inflate your self-image. It is a neutral accounting of how you applied your values. Ask specific questions. What did I do today that reflected self-discipline? Where did I act with integrity? Where did I fall short? Did I waste time? Did I react emotionally? Did I do the work I said I would do? This reflective practice creates awareness of patterns. It brings accountability to your intentions. You begin to notice where you compromise and where you stand firm. The objective is not to be flawless. It is to be aware and intentional. By structuring your day with purpose, you create space for clarity. When you design your time, you eliminate the default reliance on mood or impulse. You give your life a rhythm that strengthens consistency. This rhythm becomes the internal framework that supports your larger aims. You reduce the mental noise caused by constant indecision. You begin to see each block of time as a vessel to be filled with right action. This structure reinforces identity. You begin to act not based on how you feel, but based on who you have chosen to become. You gain trust in yourself because your habits are no longer reactive. To implement this in a simple and sustainable way, create a written daily structure. It does not need to be complex. Define your morning routine clearly. Include a set time to rise, a small set of actions to begin the day intentionally, and a practice that centers your attention. Block off uninterrupted periods for focused work. Set boundaries for when to stop and rest. Reserve time in the evening for quiet review and journaling. Limit variability in the structure even as the tasks change. This continuity builds a stable rhythm. As the days accumulate, you begin to think more clearly, act more consistently, and embody the values you respect. This is how discipline becomes character. Chapter 5. Integrity in private builds confidence in public. The Stoics placed emphasis on internal consistency. Your conduct in private must match your values. If you act differently when unobserved, then you are not yet whole. You are fragmenting your character. Public courage requires private clarity. The person who behaves one way in public and another way in solitude cannot rely on their character under pressure. They are rehearsing different scripts depending on the audience, and that weakens their foundation. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the approval of others is irrelevant if your own conscience is unsatisfied. The Stoic trains the inner voice. He prepares in silence. He reflects in solitude. He examines motives before he acts. His goal is not to appear strong or disciplined. His goal is to be consistent in thought and action. This requires a personal standard that is separate from external feedback. It must be rooted in reason and reinforced through deliberate practice. The private realm is where the real tests occur. These are the choices that do not result in public recognition. Do you choose honesty when lying is easier? Do you choose effort when you could cut corners? Do you control your impulses when no one is watching? These decisions form your core. They are repeated daily, often in small and unremarkable ways. But each small act adds to a larger pattern. That pattern eventually defines how you respond in moments that matter. You do not rise to the occasion. You return to the level of training you have set in private. When your private life is in order, your public actions are steady. You are not performing, you are simply being who you are. This consistency creates quiet confidence. You do not need recognition. You do not need validation. You know that you are living by your principles. You are not affected by external approval or disapproval. You act in line with your chosen values regardless of the setting. This makes your actions dependable and your mind more calm. You reduce the internal conflict caused by trying to uphold different standards in different places. Build this integrity by setting a standard for yourself that does not change based on who is watching. Define your own code. This can be a short list of principles that you return to each day. Measure your actions by it regularly. Keep a journal that tracks not only what you do, but why you do it. Use this as a mirror for your motives. Describe your reasoning behind key decisions. Record where your behavior matched your values and where it drifted. Review this journal with the goal of correction and refinement. This habit strengthens self-awareness. It also builds trust in your own judgment. You begin to rely less on external reminders and more on internal discipline. This is not a theoretical exercise. It is a way to construct a durable identity. When pressure increases, you will already know what to do because you have rehearsed it in private. When you are uncertain, you will have a reference point. This compass reduces hesitation and keeps your behavior aligned even when circumstances become difficult. By reinforcing internal consistency, you create a kind of stability that cannot be taken from you. Your peace does not depend on comfort. Your clarity does not depend on applause. You are led by principle, anchored in discipline, and guided by the person you choose to be when no one is watching. Chapter 6. Stand where you are. Begin with what you have. You do not need more time. You do not need more information. You do not need perfect conditions. The starting point for discipline, action, and clarity is right here. Many delay their first steps, thinking they lack the right tools or circumstances. But this delay is often built on assumption, not fact. A Stoic does not look ahead with constant doubt, waiting for external events to signal readiness. He acts from where he stands. He takes the next step with the resources immediately available, not the ones he hopes to acquire later. Delays in action are often rationalized through preparation. Planning becomes an excuse to avoid risk. The idea of doing more research, waiting for a better opening, or consulting more people gives the impression of progress without requiring commitment. But preparation without execution becomes a form of avoidance. It allows fear to disguise itself as responsibility. The Stoics believed that hesitation is a symptom of misalignment between thought and action. The longer you wait after deciding what should be done, the weaker your intention becomes. That delay increases doubt. If you know what is right and you delay it, the gap between decision and execution grows. That gap weakens confidence and fractures commitment. Each hesitation reinforces indecision. Clarity increases not by thinking more, but by doing the work in front of you. The present moment offers everything you need to practice virtue. It contains the raw material for action. You have access to patience if you choose to apply it. You can demonstrate courage if you stop avoiding what must be faced. You can act with discipline if you commit to the first necessary step. All essential principles, temperance, fortitude, justice, and wisdom, can be exercised in daily situations. There is no delay in opportunity, only delay in mindset. The Stoic begins here. He does not rely on external motivation or permission. He places his attention on what can be done now. Disregard the idea that large changes must be made all at once. Thinking in extremes leads to inaction. Improvement comes through steady repetition. Repeated behavior becomes character. One decision leads to another. One completed task becomes a marker of reliability. one kept promise to yourself, becomes the foundation for trust. These are the blocks from which lasting strength is built. Each of these actions is within reach. They are not dramatic, they are consistent. You do not require transformation to begin. You only require willingness. Start with what you have. Refine it as you go. The belief that transformation must precede effort is incorrect. The effort itself creates the foundation for transformation. Identity is shaped through repetition of action, not through passive reflection or wishful thinking. Waiting for inner change before taking action delays the process of growth. Change in mindset follows consistent decisions. Begin with what is accessible. Focus on one act, done with full attention. Choose tasks that require effort, not perfection. Action introduces structure into areas of your life that lack it. When structure is present, discipline is easier to maintain. Repetition reinforces stability. Every act you repeat becomes easier to complete. Repetition also lowers resistance. The first effort may feel difficult, but the second is less uncertain. The third begins to feel familiar. Each round reinforces direction. You begin to work from habit instead of hesitation. Small, daily effort outperforms large, inconsistent bursts. Intensity fades. Frequency endures. High effort followed by long pauses produces instability. Consistent effort builds strength, clarity, and control. Success is not measured by intensity. It is measured by dependability. Dependability means that your values show up in action, even when you do not feel at your best. Each consistent decision reinforces the structure of your discipline. When you keep a promise to yourself, your self-respect increases. When you complete small tasks with attention, your ability to handle larger ones improves. Discipline builds on results that accumulate gradually, step by step. This structure allows you to work through difficult conditions without collapse. You are not starting over each day. You are building on a stable pattern. The more this pattern is repeated, the easier it is to recover from setbacks and maintain forward movement. Practical application begins with choosing one area of your life that is within your control. This may be your physical routine, your morning ritual, your tone in conversation, or your handling of finances. Do not overcomplicate the starting point. Do not wait for dramatic change. Select something specific. Define it clearly. Apply consistent effort to improve it. Track it without emotion. Evaluate what worked, what slipped, and where structure broke down. Use daily measurement to track your adherence. Measurement creates feedback. Feedback makes growth visible. It gives you reference points for adjustment. Keep your goals actionable and narrow. Avoid vague objectives. Make your actions small enough to complete without excuse. Build structure around that one area until it becomes stable. Once stable, it becomes part of your default behavior. When that happens, select a new area to improve. Repeat the process. Each section of your life that becomes ordered contributes to the overall integrity of your mindset. Do not wait for a better mood or a more ideal week. Mood fluctuates. Action creates clarity. Begin where you are. Begin now. Progress is built through repetition, not through delay. The path forward is built by stepping forward. Nothing else initiates growth. Every step reinforces identity. Every effort repeated becomes part of who you are. Chapter 7. The obstacle is the training. Difficulty is not a signal to stop. It is the ground on which practice becomes real. A Stoic does not seek discomfort for the sake of struggle, but he does recognize that the obstacle is not separate from the training. It is the training. Every disruption tests composure. Every delay tests patience. Every failure tests perseverance. These are not detours. They are the path. Comfort cannot teach endurance. Easy conditions cannot develop resilience. What challenges you also forms you. If you avoid what tests you, you avoid what strengthens you. The Stoics understood that life will provide the exact situations you need to develop the virtues you claim to value. You do not choose the timing of these events, but you can choose your response to them. When faced with adversity, you do not retreat. You evaluate. You ask what the moment demands. You respond with discipline rather than reaction. This habit builds a type of strength that does not depend on external conditions. The more you face without panic, the more capable you become of handling what comes next. Reframing difficulty is a deliberate skill. It requires you to pause before assigning labels like bad or unfair. Instead, ask, what does this make possible? What can I learn under pressure that I cannot learn in ease? What muscle is being trained? Use this lens to move forward. Keep a resistance log. At the end of each day, write down one obstacle you encountered and describe how you responded. Did you delay? Did you confront it directly? Did you learn from it? This record will show patterns. With review, those patterns can be corrected. Each obstacle, if used correctly, becomes a step forward in your preparation. Chapter 8. Emotional control is strength. The Stoics viewed emotions as signals, not as leaders. They acknowledged emotion, but placed reason above it. The wise person does not deny feelings, but he does not allow them to direct his actions. Emotional control is not suppression. It is management. Anger, fear, excitement, and frustration all contain energy. That energy must be shaped by principle. When emotion takes control, decisions become erratic. When reason governs emotion, decisions become steady. A Stoic trains for this. He does not wait to feel calm. He cultivates calm through practice, breathing deeply, pausing before speaking, reviewing consequences. All these habits create space between stimulus and response. Control does not mean detachment from reality. It means clarity in perception. To see events as they are requires discipline of the mind. You must slow your interpretation before your reaction begins. A Stoic brings precision to how he sees and to how he acts. Practice intentional pauses throughout your day. When you feel a spike in emotion, stop and label the feeling. Identify its source. Ask what action aligns with your values. If necessary, remove yourself from the situation briefly. Make the decision with clarity, not impulse. This practice builds inner strength and reduces regret. Chapter 9. Speak less, mean more. The Stoics valued measured speech. Words were tools, not decorations. Talking excessively was seen as a weakness of discipline. Speaking less was a sign of control. Precision in language reflects precision in thought. The way you speak reflects how clearly you think. If your words are scattered, your mind is likely unfocused. If your words are sharp and direct, your thoughts are likely organized. The discipline of speech is part of the broader Stoic discipline of self-governance. Speaking without purpose leads to unnecessary noise. This weakens your presence and diffuses your attention. Idle talk invites distraction, opens the door to gossip, and encourages exaggeration. It also consumes energy that could be directed toward more meaningful action. The Stoics viewed restraint in speech as a way to conserve focus. When you train yourself to speak only when necessary, you sharpen your sense of judgment. Each word becomes a deliberate act rather than a reflexive one. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to speak only what is necessary and only what is true. Seneca advised against idle talk. Epictetus warned that the more you speak without purpose, the further you drift from reason. These were not just preferences in style, they were part of a larger commitment to order, clarity, and intention. Stoic speech is guided by principles, not by mood. It is shaped by thought, not by reaction. It is filtered through questions of relevance, honesty, and usefulness. Speech reveals internal order. The person who cannot control their mouth cannot control their mind. Excessive talking is often driven by anxiety, insecurity, or the desire to be seen. It dilutes meaning and reveals a lack of internal stillness. Words should serve clarity, not vanity. The fewer words you use, the more each one must carry. This creates a kind of pressure that forces precision. When speech is minimal, its quality must rise. Each statement must have weight. Each point must be clear. Monitor your conversations. Track when you speak from habit versus when you speak with purpose. Pay attention to what triggers unnecessary talking. Before entering discussions, define your intention. Are you adding clarity or just filling silence? Ask yourself, is this necessary? Is this true? Is this useful? If the answer is no, do not speak. This restraint sharpens your presence and increases the weight of your words. When others speak too much, your silence becomes powerful. When you finally speak, others will listen more closely. At the end of the day, reflect on a few conversations you had. Write down what you said, how much you said, and why you said it. Review whether your words added clarity or created confusion. Adjust your approach based on this review.